This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein. Good Tavach, Shmuel Tov, and everyone should be Matzliach this week. We're going to examine 3 Inyanim Iyun on Daf Lamed Zayin. I really could not choose, and I couldn't give up on any of them. So maybe we'll try to go through them. Maybe in a way it's the opposite of Iyun, but nevertheless, Torah-hi v'lo maranu tzarach. We're going to start with the Sugya by the 2 dots on Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, Safek ben Tesha, right? The Mishnah said that if a man is miyabim a woman, and then she turns out to be pregnant, and there's a kid, and the kid might be from the deceased, the kid might be from this man, he's basically Safek ben Tisha le Rishon, Safek ben Shiva le Sheni. So the halacha is, you lived with her besafek because she may have already had a child, and therefore the Mishnah says you're chayiv to bring an asham taloi. Says the Gemara, Rava asked Rav Nachman, why don't you follow the Roiv? And most women give birth after 9 months. So Roiv says he is ben Rishon, and in that case you lived with Eishes Ach Shaloi b'makam yibum, because there's no heter to live with her, because the deceased had a child. So the Gemara says back, Rav Nachman, the Rava said, that's what Rava said to Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman says, our wives give birth after 7 months. So Rava said, your wives are the Roiv of the world? What? Your one wife is the Roiv of the world? So yesterday on Shabbos, we had a nice pshat in this. Listen to this. Michael, you're going to like this. The Gemara says on Lamed Zayin Amud Beis that Rav Nachman, when he went to Shachnatziv, he made an announcement, who wants to be my wife today? Now Rav Nachman went to Shachnatziv quite often. So it means he Taka had many, many, many wives. Rav Nachman Taka was married, who knows, over the course of his life, he was married to a few hundred people. So Rav Nachman's not just saying my wife, he's saying our wives, he had a big sample size. Anyway, so the Gemara says, Rav Nachman said as follows, most women give birth after 9 months, but anyone who gives birth after 9 months, you would recognize the Vlad after 3 months. And this woman, you did not recognize that she was pregnant, so therefore her roiv is weakened, and therefore, in all probability, the child is ben sheva la'achroin, and therefore you should. That's why you're chayiv in asham talei. To which the Gemara says, if every single woman who gives birth after 9 months, the vlad is recognizable after 3 months, so then we know for sure that it's a ben sheva la'achroin, and in that case, you should be completely pater. What's the asham talei even? To which the Gemara says, no. You're right, most women give birth after 9 months, but the majority of women who give birth after 9 months it's recognizable that they're pregnant after 3 months. So this woman, it wasn't recognizable after 3 months. So it's sort of 50-50. On the one hand, the majority of women give birth after 9 months, but out of that majority, most of the women are recognizable. So it ends up being 50-50. Comes Tosfos. Take a look at Tosfos Devei Amaschal. V'zu ha'el v'loi hukar. Tosfos says, okay, you have one roiv saying that the child is born after 9 months from the first one. However, that roiv is weakened based on the fact that her pregnancy was not recognizable. Says Tosfos, what about chazaka? Why are we ignoring chazaka over here? What about the fact that chazaka says the woman was becheskas heter liyibam, she didn't have a child, so chazaka should say that the child was born from the second one. So let's say you're right, it's 50-50. Chazaka, cheskas heter liyibam. Cheskas heter liyibam should say the child was born from the second man. So chazaka should paskin the suffix. And if you want to know since when do we use chazaka, we use chazaka on Daf Lamed Amud Beis. By suffix kedushin, we said that the woman has a chazaka that she's motor libam. Tosfos tema Why don't we establish her that she's b'cheskas heter liyavam v'lo yischayev ba'asham taloi, and this way you're not chayv asham taloi. And in that case, the second vlad, we said the second vlad is a suffix mamzer. Why is the second vlad a suffix mamzer, right? Tan Rabban, Rishon Roy Lias Kohen Gadol, V'sheni mamzer misafik. Why? Why mamzer misafik? The second one should be kosher because of chazaka. V'inami vlad sheni kosher. The Smoch, Miut, Yoledes, L'shiva, Achazaka. Be soimech, the Miut that gives birth after 7 months on the chazaka. V'Israelei, Ruba. And now the chazaka, now listen to this. There is a Miut. Yeah? There is a Miut that gives birth after what? After 7 months. Take that Miut, of the Miut of women that give birth after 7 months, appendage it to the chazaka, and that will weaken the roiv. And then, v'nismech haruba over nikolash l'shamea. Basically like this. You have one roiv that most women are recognizable after 3 months. That's saying that the second vlad is kosher. That's saying that you're not chayv nashim talei. There's nothing weakening that roiv. The other roiv is most women give birth after 9 months, but a miut don't. The chazaka says that the child came from the second one because she's b'cheskas mutar liibam. So take the miut of women who don't give birth after 9 months, appendage it to the chazaka that she is b'cheskas heter liibam. When you have a chazaka supported by a miut, that will weaken the roiv that most women give birth after 9 months. And then, so you have basically the roiv that most women give birth after 9 months is weakened. The roiv that most women are recognizable after 3 months is not weakened. So you have a strong roiv against the weak roiv. So the strong roiv should win. Basically, Tosfos is using the svara of Smoch, Miut, Achazaka. There is a miut of women who give birth after 7 months. Attach it to the chazaka that she's b'cheskas heter liibam, and that should diminish and weaken the roiv that most women give birth after 9 months. So you have a weak roiv against a strong roiv that most women are recognizable in their pregnancy after 3 months. Says Tosfos, earlier on in Daf Lamed Beis, we consider it a chazaka by Savik Kedushin. Ulekaman beperek basra, afilu haisa tzara muberes. Even if the tzara was pregnant, chashvin la b'cheskas lekuka, we still utilize a chazaka that she is presumptively zakuk liyibam. Elamai v'chitema diika ruba achwina derayv nashim misabres v'yoldais. What do you mean? What about isn't there a roiv? Most women become pregnant and give birth. So doesn't that mean we should establish her b'cheskas muberes from the first one? In other words, Tosfos is saying we do have a strong roiv though that she's pregnant from the first one, because isn't there a roiv? Most women become pregnant and give birth. Tosfos says no. The ain't svara klal loymar. There's no svara at all to say. Benashim sheshoim baleim, about a woman that stayed with her husband kama shanim for many years, v'lo ibru, and they didn't become pregnant, and then their husband died. Most women become pregnant and give birth because this woman was married many years with this guy and they never had kids. Later on we say it, but in our situation it doesn't make sense to say it. So the bottom line is, Tosfos has a kasha and he has no answer. The question is, on the one hand, you have a roiv, a strong roiv, that this kid was for sure born from the second husband, because if he was born from the first husband, why didn't she look pregnant? Why didn't the shviger figure out that she was pregnant? The shviger had no idea. She's been looking, she's looking, and she can't tell. So that's a strong roiv. On the other hand, there's a roiv. Most women give birth after 9 months. But that roiv is weakened. Why? Because miut don't give birth after 9 months. And chazaka says that she's b'cheskas mutar liyibam. So we should utilize the principle smoich miyuta lechazaka to weaken the roiv that most women give birth after 9 months. And And so that roiv is weak, and the roiv that most women, her pregnancy is recognizable, is strong. So the strong roiv should beat the weak roiv. That is the tema of Tosfos.
How does a chazaka that she's zakak leibim affect whose child it is?
Because
Arrive, I understand. Arrive, you say arrive. Okay, most women, but when you're talking about chazaka is more about ownership. That we say, okay, it goes since you were the original owner. So the chazak is that it should stay by you. But when we're talking about who this child comes from, how does chazaka dictate who the child is coming from?
So there's something called cheskas iser. Cheskas iser says that if somebody had a status of iser or of heter, we assume that status continues. So this woman was in a status that she is muteras liyibam. She was married to a guy, they didn't have kids, so we should assume that status continued for as long as possible. It's called cheskas heter liyibam. The Gemara on Daf Lamed used this exact chazaka, that when you're not sure about something, presume that if she was once muter liyibam, that status should continue. So, therefore, if she was once muter liyibam, and now you have a question about a kid who perhaps disrupts her heter liyibam, assume the kid came from the yavam, the second husband, in order to continue her presumptive status that she's muter liyibam. That's Tosfos' kasha. That is Tosfos' kasha. There is an amazing Rabbi Eiger. The first part of Rabbi Eiger, I'm just going to do as a side point, but we're going to focus on Rabbi Eiger's kasha on Tosfos. His second question. The first question I'm doing for personal reasons because he brings in Reb Meir. Rabbi Eiger says, Tamu. This is Tosfos' kasha. Amay yischayev ba'asham taloi. Why are you chayv in Hashem Torah? Nikmina b'cheskas heter liyavam v'nema Smoch Miut yerledes l'zayin achazaka v'isra le'ruba v'nismach haruba du'bara nikar l'shushameh. Follow the strong roiv that most women are recognizable after 3 months, and the other roiv that most women give birth after 9 months is weakened by joining the chazaka with the Miut. V'hinichu b'tema. Tosfos leaves this question as a tema. Says Rabbi Eiger, Uva'anyi av koishi eni raya. In my impoverished state, I don't understand this question. Because even those who hold that we utilize Smoch Miut l'chazaka, that is only l'chumra midrabanan. That is only a chumra midrabanan. But min Torah, it's not 50-50. You know who holds it's 50-50? Rav Meir. Rav Meir, as Tosfos says in many places in Shas, that Rav Meir is choishesh for the Miut. So Rav Meir is choishesh for the Miut. He utilizes the principle of Smoch Miuta l'chazaka. But everybody else only uses it l'chumra midrabanan. But midairaisa you don't use it. So how in the world will the Miut join with the chazaka to say you're pater from an asham taloi? You have roiv that says you did an avera. Roiv says the child is from the first woman. Elamai, you want to use a miut and join it up with the chazaka. The miut is nothing. And umakoiroi Tosfos elamai, so, right? Because then you just left with a roiv against the chazaka. And we know there's a rule: ruba v'chazaka, ruba adaf. Aval minat Torah lo have a kapaga rak l'rameir. If you have a child near dough, we're not choishesh for the Miut. So Rabbi Eiger says maybe Tosfos' kasha is that this is Stam Mishnah, and Stam Mishnah has to fit into Rameir as well. V'ulai kavanosim demashin nasmis divrei hakolhi v'gam l'Rameir chay b'ashim taloi v'hainu af l'Rameir. Even though according to Rameir loy mahani haroyiv d'chashin l'miut, that's only midrabanan, like Tosfos says in Chulin. V'rak Smoch Miuta l'chazaka hu d'oraisa, according to Rameir. And so Rabbi Eiger feels that the only way to explain Tosfos' kasha is if Tosfos is asking in Rav Meir, who subscribes to Smoch Miut l'chazaka. But the Rabbanon do not subscribe to Smoch Miut Lechazaka. But here is Rabbi Akiva Eigers' kasha. You with me? Hakol imi? Ubi yoiser. You see where my arrow is? Says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, Ubi yoiser kashali. And it's even more difficult to me. Lama naktu kushyasam b'chahai gavna. Why did Tosfos ask the question? Listen to how Tosfos is asking it. Tosfos is asking, the roiv that most women give birth after 9 months is weak, because some don't. Plus you have a chazaka, she's b'cheskas heter liibam. That weakens the chazaka. And on the other hand, you have a chazaka, you have a roiv, that most women, their pregnancy is recognizable after 3 months. So you have a strong roiv against a weak roiv. Says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, Tosfos should have asked the question much more straightforward. V'loi b'pshuti. Why didn't Tosfos ask simply? Forget the miut. Because if you forget the miut, forget Rav Meir, I have a gavaldiga kasha. I have roiv. Roiv says most women give birth after 9 months. On the other hand, Roiv says most women, their pregnancy is recognized after 3 months. So it's Roiv versus Roiv. And what do you do when you don't know what to do? Chazaka will be machriya. V'loi b'pshuti, the name of uki ruba, dilates yalda, neged Roiv d'uber nikal l'shush yamav. So it's palga upalga. V'shuv nezel basar chazaka liibum. You know why this is a better question? Because this question is not only in Rameir. If you're going to ask, I have a strong chazaka that women are recognizable after 3 months, and the other chazaka that most women give birth after 9 months, that's weakened because there's a miut and a chazaka against it. What do you mean? That means you're using the principle of Smoch Miut Lechazaka. Only Rameir holds Smoch Miut Lechazaka. So Rabbi Akiva Eiger says you have to be madchik. Tosfos' kasha is only in Rameir. Says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, Tosfos should have asked the question and formulated it more cogently. Tosfos should have asked, you have 2 roivs that are butting heads over here. You have one roiv, most women give birth after 9 months. On the other hand, you have a roiv that most women who give birth after 9 months, they're recognizable after 3 months. And this woman's not recognizable. So you have 2 roivs clashing. What do you do when you have 2 roivs clashing? Follow chazaka. What does chazaka say? Chazaka says she's becheskas heter liibam. That is Rabbi Akiva Eiger's tzarach Iyun gadol on Tosfos. Tosfos should have formulated the question in a way that the question is not only in the world of Rameir, the question would be l'kulei alma. So, Rav Shmuel Rozovsky, in the Shiur Rav Shmuel, I didn't have a chance to put it on the sheet, he says that apparently Tosfos did not ask the question this way. Because the same way, do you remember we had an Iyun Shiur when you have 2 Eidim versus 2 Eidim? Maybe Chazaka cannot be Machriya because Eidus is a Birur and it's the ultimate Birur. So Chazaka cannot add any Hachra and any tilting and inclination when you already have Eidus versus Eidus. By the same token, if you have Roiv versus Roiv, also, Chazaka is not going to talk. Why? Because we already have the ultimate Raya. Roiv is also a much stronger form of evidence than Chazaka is. So when you have Roiv versus Roiv, Chazaka cannot be Machriya. Therefore, Tosfos has no choice but to formulate his question as follows. The Roiv that most women are recognizable after 3 months is strong. However, the Roiv that most women give birth after 9 months is weak because you have a miut that don't, plus the chazaka, so that is a smoch miut lechazaka. But to say chazaka is machriya between 2 roivs, that we don't say. By the way, did we have such a svara when we did the sugya of trey or trey? Mamish, the exact same svara? Where do we have that? Where did we have Barshatya? on Daf Lamed Aleph Amid Aleph. So did we have a svara like that on Daf Lamed Aleph by Bar Shatya? Remember this? Let me just check and then we're going to move on to the next one. Anyone remember? No, Rabbi Eigers and Simon Kuf Lamed Zayin wanted to say that by Treu Trey, maybe Roiv cannot be Machrea either. Okay, that's the first offering. In other words, we have Tosfos' kasha, say Smoch Miut l'chazaka. You have Rabbi Eigers' kasha on Tosfos that Smoch Miut l'chazaka only works in the world of Rameir. You have Rabbi Eigers' Sarchi and Gadol that Tosfos should have formulated the question, forget Smoch Miut l'chazaka, say Roiv versus Roiv and let Chazaka be Machria. And you have Rabbi Shmuel Rozovsky's answer that Roiv cannot, that Chazaka cannot be Machria between two Roivs. That is the first offering of today.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.